Hey, this is Soma79 with a special announcement. My new Mega Mix is up. My MF Doom Mega Mix, Oxidation Moons Day, is now available. Go to www.soma79.com/doom to check it out. It's a 30-minute mix that I did of MF Doom raps over my own beats. I really enjoy it. I hope you really enjoy it. So check it out. Tell a friend. Peace. Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox Podcast. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me today. My guest today is beatmaker, producer, and podcast host Anthony Church. I really enjoyed my conversation with Anthony. We met through King Shamps, who was on an episode a few episodes back. That dude is an absolute beast on the mic, and we found each other. Anthony and I found each other through that episode. And he's a really talented dude. I really appreciate his hustle and his dedication and just the way he thinks about his music and how he plans ahead of time. There's a lot of things that I kind of picked up from him. I'm like, oh, I could be doing this better, just the way he's organized and on top of things. And I check out his music on Spotify. It's really pristine. He does a really good job of matching the sound with the vocals. You can tell he puts a lot of thought into it. And I think he's got a great future. I was really excited to talk to him, and believe if it's not out yet, I believe I'll be appearing on his podcast as well. So we talk about that during this episode, and all that good stuff. So check him out. His social information, where you can find him, is in the show notes. And while I'm at plugging things, my EP with Pillsy Beats, Quiet Life Loud Friends, is still available, featuring copyright and Wordplay the Flyest MC and Honest the Grease God and Jay Sinatra. The response has been great, and I really appreciate that. So go check that out. You can download it for free off my website, soma79.com/Quiet Life Loud Friends, all one word, and get on the whole thing with the bonus track, which is I Don't Know You But I Hate You, which is already now, by the time this is out, that should also be available on Spotify and all the streaming services as well. So thank you so much, and happy holidays, and peace.
And with wings clipped, quick to flip manuscripts, cause her man went from damaged kid to damn he's rich. But she still can't stand the way he manages to never put nickels in the can for the cancer kids. Plus he cheats at cornhole and brags that he won, so she lost interest like porno after she comes. My DM started jingling, baby, as it was done. 2 seconds later I can hear the snapping of her gums. She calls me half Dodge Challenger, half Lip Gallagher.
Hey, welcome to the newest episode of the Articulate Ox Podcast. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest today is hip-hop producer and podcast host Anthony Church, hailing from Northeast Ohio. How are you doing today, Anthony?
Man, I'm doing great. And again, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be on your platform, especially on such short notice, because I know it was like a couple days ago, but happy to be here and happy to chat with you, man.
Yeah, as I'm sure a lot of people who's dealt with rappers are surprised. I was supposed to have a rapper on. I was trying to do a few episodes to wrap up, and he hasn't responded to my last few Instagram messages and hasn't opened in the past week. So trying to like get rappers to do anything, sometimes even after you pay them.
Yeah, man, I feel like that's why I've been working with more singers lately, doing more R&B stuff, is because of that reason, which is unfortunate. But it's like maybe it's like a stigma that certain rappers have, but there's definitely. I've worked with a ton of rappers that they're always on, their shit. They know what they're doing. And I think it's about, keeping a set schedule too is a big thing. A lot of people don't do that, unfortunately, but, hopefully you can connect with him soon.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny too, because I see, I've been around for a long time, so I was big into underground rap like 20, 25 years ago, and like still am, but like I see who survived that time and who is like on the outskirts of rap, and it's the people who are organized, who could set a schedule, who treated it like a job and didn't treat it as like, a nonstop party, because
it's on an individual basis. I think for like myself, because I just produce and do things like that, and to have a show, and as you probably know, you need a schedule to do a show.
Right.
Like for me, that's been such a big thing the last couple of years, is like getting organized. I have like a day-to-day planner now. So I just keep everything, and I'll just wipe it out each day and set it to the next day and see like, what do I have to do? I have like a top 5 of like, what do I have to get done today? Mm-hmm. What's on the top of that list? I get all that done, then everything else comes next. You know what I
You know what
mean?
I get real excited about is efficiency. Like when I figure out,
Yeah.
like, because I try to make things, I do like editing, I have templates and stuff. When I figure out something that makes an episode go from like 30 minutes to produce to like 20 minutes to produce,
Yeah.
that's like the happiest time of my life. Like I just
Yeah.
imagine someday in my life when all the efficiencies that I built up, I just get to sit in a hammock and enjoy that day. But I'll probably get hit by
That's
a bus before it happens.
I think well, I think that's the goal for it. Not to get hit by a bus,
Yeah.
but the first part, that's probably the goal for everybody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Kind of like finding ways to like make it more efficient across the board. So
Yeah. So all right,
yeah.
so as you know, we both work in hip hop and we both talk about how great efficiency is and how great it is to like be on time and stuff like that. Obviously, a lot of people aren't in that. So what is it like? Is that something that was always a part of you? Did that come to you once you kind of just started doing your production and realized you needed it? Or is like
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like it's gotten a lot better in the last couple years because when I started at 19 making music, so I'm not like too far in. I'm only 7 years into making music at this point, so I still would consider myself more of a
so
beginner
that
anyway.
means you're 26.
Exactly.
All right.
Got it right on the head there.
There you go.
So yeah, 26 years old. Yeah, I think even when I started out, I was kind of just I think I was more worried about, am I going to be good at music or can I at least like build this into something? That was really the first like probably 4 or 5 years was just trying to get that and build my network and things like that.
Mhm.
Now that I have like more connections and I have the show and I have all these things going on, like the social media content and everything, I was like, I'm never going to survive if I don't figure out how to plan it out because I'll just get overworked and just start overthinking everything and nothing's going to be efficient and come out on time. So that was really just within the last couple of years, especially this year has been my best year for getting organized, staying organized. I keep a whiteboard off to the side here, you can't see it, but I have like all the projects I'm working on for music, all the things I want to get done in the next like year or so. So that's a big thing. And then using my iPhone, I just use the Notes app. I have a social media like scheduler app, so I can schedule like months in advance, like posting and things
Which
like
one?
that.
What do you use? Because that's something that I've been meaning to. I do a lot of similar. What you're talking about, I don't do exactly what you're talking
Yeah.
about, but I have my own similar versions. But I don't have what type of social media scheduling apps do you?
So the app that I use is called Appy AA. It's APPHI is how you spell it. And
I'm
you
running
can
out of words.
yeah, exactly. There's a free version of it. I don't know how many posts you get per month, and then there's like a paid version of it as well. I discovered it from this guy named Adam Ivy who does a lot of social media stuff with music. I actually took a course with him like 5 years ago, and that's how I kind of got set on this path of like doing more on Instagram and doing more in the different spaces on social media. So I discovered it through him. I've been using it for like a year and a half. And right now, I got really up until like June already for next year planned out pretty much as far as what I'm going to be doing, figuring out like my releases for my own music, the different content I'm going to be putting out, and kind of just trying new things. I do like Spotify playlists. Like I said, the podcast is every Tuesday. I usually put a new beat up every Monday that's on social media. I always post to BeatStars every single day, though, posting a new beat up there. So just trying different ways to connect with people and showcase other artists too, because that's a big part of what the podcast is about, the playlist, all of that stuff. Just trying to find different ways to get out there and be creative with it.
I
So
was surprised when I started my podcast how much that was going to help me just in and I guess it's pretty obvious, but all of a sudden, if you seek it out, now I have hip hop friends in like all these places I never knew. I never
yeah,
like this dude Wordplay to Fly SMC has been on here a few times, this Australian battle rapper who battles under a Pikachu mask. Like shout out to Wordplay, just had his gallbladder out, working on a package to send to him. So hope you're feeling better, man. By the time you see this, I think you'll be fully recovered. But it's like it's crazy to be able to go, oh, like find these people all over the world and find these different perspectives and talk to them and collaborate and just share your fan bases, because we're all struggling. So many of us who make independent music have our small number of fans that don't really add up to a lot, but like when we all put that together, I'm finding it is adding up to something.
yeah. It's really a form of community building. And for me, because I told you before we started recording the episode, I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like it's not a place where there's a ton of stuff going on, like musically.
I'm in a town of 5,000 people. I can
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
So it's like the beauty of having like social media and being able to build a community that way. That's kind of like the best part about it, especially in the era we're in now.
Yeah.
And being able to do that for myself, it's been super, super vital. It's kind of been the only way I've been able to build what I've built so far and what I'm going to keep building is just meeting people through Instagram's really where I think I still live the most because I've just always been on there. I always send like emails to people or messages to people on there. So I've always been most active on there, but you can really find people all over the place in different ways that you never thought you could. So
yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing too about podcasting is that I find people will have conversations with you essentially in public they wouldn't have in private. Like if you just hit up some random person, like if I just hit up like King Shamps, who we both have interviewed and know a little bit and like never met him before. I'm like, hey, you want to just hop on the phone and just talk for like an hour and a half? He'd be like, I don't know who you are or what you want, but I'm not gonna find. I'm not putting words in his mouth. But like, if you're like, oh, we're gonna tape it and we're gonna talk about this stuff, people are like, yeah, sure. Like other people, but then you get forming these relationships you wouldn't have otherwise, and especially to you from a small town, I'm from a small town. Like numerically speaking, there's only gonna be so many people statistically like me from that town, and so like for me growing up, like especially because I'm like 45. When I go to like Comic-Con and see like these like 15-year-old girls dressed like Deadpool, I'm like, where were you when I was 15? Because like there weren't even 15-year-old boys that dressed like Deadpool when I was a kid. I was like the one that was into that shit. And so it's like these days where it's like if you feel that way in your town, like there is the whole world to find people. And people talk about the negatives of social media, but there are so many positives when you're just trying to find your community, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. And it really is just kind of what you do with the tools you have as well. I think it's just like anything else where a lot of people, it's a mindset thing. You know what I mean? Like you could focus on like the bad part of it, or you could focus on parts that are good and you can be constructive with it and build up something that people are going to appreciate and you're going to be able to connect with different individuals through it. So I think it's just about mindset at the end of the day and figuring that out. And I sometimes wish that too, like that I had more people in person to like go to and like collaborate with, and there might still be people that I haven't met that are doing cool things like in my town. I don't really know. I try to keep like as well informed as I can and like see things, and if I hear about someone from someone else, maybe I'll go check them out. But you know, you kind of just got to work with what you got to work with. But like we said, the internet helps so much, and just being able to get in touch with people and thank God we're in the time we're in now. That's all I know.
Yeah. The thing that I always recommend to people when you're trying to do what you're talking about is use the internet, but still be a human being. Like, don't like, it's like you get so many of those messages that are just like, oh, I work for so-and-so and I'm going to, it's like, you remember you're like, use the internet, but sell yourself as a human. And like, you know, that helps so much is trying to, when people feel human to human contact on this, you know, stupid little thing that I pull out of my pocket 97 times a day, it's genuine, and it's the closest thing we have anymore. Like, you know,
it's a lot different from getting like a DM that says sup or let's work, fire emoji, fire.
I know, let's build.
Like, that's not doing anything for me. I could get a million of those messages any day of the week. Like, whenever actually introduce yourself, you know what I mean? So
whenever I get those, I always picture the flat bring rappers that go like this, telling you that they're next. I'm just like, we have too many of those.
Doing the Birdman hand rub.
Yeah,
still. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you seem like a pretty positive outlook on life in general. I mean, where's that come from? Is that who you are?
I mean, again, I think it's going back to like talking about how I had to work on myself really and like work on these habits. I think that's another thing that I had to kind of build up to. I admittedly, I am from a family, especially the men in our family, a lot of anger issues, a lot of like trouble with that. I still have anger issues to an extent, not like extreme, especially when I'm driving, by the way.
Oh, that's the worst of me
comes out. Driving, man. That's probably the worst time ever. So I'm just like, I got to figure that out. But
I do say people, the only time I become somebody I don't recognize is in traffic.
Driving. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And, you know, I think it's just like, for me, it's been, like I said, about mindset, just shifting my mindset to a different place to be more creative. And I credit, you know, the people that I've learned from, the artists that I listen to, but also just like my indirect mentors, things like that, as far as like helping me be able to shift my mindset. And that's still just a work in progress every day. I don't think you ever get to the point where you're like, you know, I've completed all I can with that journey. I think it's just a lifelong journey. Like, you're always going to be working on that. So I always got to keep that in mind as well. But when I look back to myself, like 10 years ago, or even like when I first started music, I can just see the progress. And I'm like, I'm proud of myself for doing that, taking those steps, being able to get there. And I think that's all it just boils down to, is just how you look at life at the end of the day. And if you're doing something you really love and you're building towards something each and every day, it gives you a different purpose to be able to keep going, and helping other people where you can. And ultimately that gives you that fulfillment. And that's really where I am now. And like I said, I just hope to keep building that and meeting new great people and seeing what comes out of it. So
It sounds like you have a lot of self-awareness, which is what is one of the most valuable traits that I think you can have, like in almost all areas of life, is the ability to be able to see yourself the way others see you. And it's so when it's lacking in somebody, it's pretty obvious. And when it's there, it's also, it sounds like you've done a lot of self introspection in your life and decided who you wanted to be and worked towards that person, which is very admirable.
I appreciate that. And it definitely, again, I think it's different for every single person. Like, you got to have that conversation with yourself and be like comfortable. A lot of people, they're not comfortable even talking to themselves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I have something I say I say to people. I had a line in one of my songs, like, how can you lie to yourself and be honest with somebody else? And I think a lot of times that we get mad at people that aren't honest with us, we have to realize they're lying to themselves too. So we're just a byproduct of that. Like that, me realizing that helped me A, decrease my frustrations, and B, increase my empathy a little,
Yeah. I think I always look at it kind of as like all the people in our lives, whether they're close to us or maybe they're just, in our life for a little bit and then they're out of our life. Every person is pretty much just in and out no matter what, even if it's a good relationship. At the end of the day, we always have ourselves.
Right.
So it's like, I would never want to hate myself or be like, I wish I was someone else or I have regrets. Like, no, I want to be like my best self every single day as much as I can.
It's funny you say that, because I was thinking about this, that when I was a kid, not even only a kid, but up to like a lot through my adult life, I had this attitude that if I was the only person getting hurt by something, nobody important was getting hurt. Like, it was essentially that I'm somebody who would never do anything to anybody else, but the way I've treated myself my entire life, if I ever treated other people the way I treated myself, I'd have no friends. And it's like, that to me was a realization where I'm like, why am I 100 times harder on myself than I am on other people? And that to me was like a big realization. I'm like, oh, it's okay. It's like, if you're going to forgive others,
Yeah, exactly.
That was my
I try not to look at things from like a victim mentality standpoint on myself either anymore, where it's like, things are going to happen to you regardless, that you don't want them to happen to you for your whole life, whether you like it or not. You could even put yourself in the best position. Sometimes things aren't going to work out.
Yeah.
So it's like, instead of always playing, like, I had to tell myself this, is like, instead of always playing like the victim role and being like, woe is me, or why does this always happen to me? It's like, just move forward with a different light and like be appreciative still. Of even being able to wake up in the morning and be like, I can do these things. I can create music. I can connect with people. Like,
and have the faith in yourself that you can handle bad things when they happen. Like, that was something. And just like realize that sometimes the things you worry about are going to happen, and you can probably deal with it.
Yeah. You learn the lessons along the way, and I think the older you get, you're like, I can deal with it better now than I could way back then.
Yeah, so definitely. So musically, so who are some of your musical inspirations? So what are some of your earliest memories of music, changing you or touching you or anything like that?
Yeah. So it's funny, because I think I'm the only person in my family that ever gravitated towards hip hop specifically, like early on.
Got a lot of shit over that.
Yeah, because like my dad is always like a 70s, 80s guy. He doesn't listen to anything past like 1988, like not even 89. He's like, no, that was
my dad was like that for years, but all of a sudden now he's into modern country, and I don't know what the fuck is up. He hit 10 years of sobriety and became a whole different person.
I don't know if my dad will ever get there, because he's just so set in his ways. Like, I grew up just listening to like the Sirius XM 70s on 7, 80s on 8. Like, that's all. Every time I'd go with my dad in his truck, like, he'd be playing that. My mom
is that like the Eagles and like stuff like that, like Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac, and then obviously like Aerosmith.
A lot of that up here.
Yeah, he likes a lot of different genres. It just has to be from that era. You know what I mean? So
my
my mom, Yeah, my mom's like a country fan, but she just listens to anything on the radio. I wouldn't consider her like super deep into music. Like she's just kind of the casual listener of things.
Whenever I meet those people, I know a lot of them blows my mind.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I like music. I'm like, but why don't you love it?
You just turn on the radio and whatever's playing, you just let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not seeking out like certain artists or anything like that. My brother, me and him shared an iPod for a long time when we were growing up. So I would always have his playlist. He liked a little bit of hip hop, but he also liked punk, some EDM. Like he likes a lot of different things too. So I kind of just took in a lot of influences. But I think I was drawn to hip hop when I was like probably 8 or 9. I actually had a video game on the Xbox called NBA Live 07, and it had like a few different artists on it. It had like Talib Kweli. It had Lupe Fiasco. I heard Lupe's song "Kick Push" on that soundtrack, and I was like, "What is this?" Like the beat, the production, his lyrics. I was like, "This is awesome." Yeah, and so that's when Lupe kind of became like one of my favorite rappers initially. Obviously like Kanye, because this was around the time. This was probably like 2006 through 2010 was really when I was starting to get into hip hop. So I was listening to like whoever was big at the time: Eminem, Lil Wayne, Jay-Z, some Nas here and there, just a lot of different people. I would just hear all these people, and then I remember when I got my first iPhone, I downloaded Pandora Radio, and I would just create artist radio stations and just start discovering all this different music, whether it's from the 90s or the early 2000s all the way up until then. That's kind of just how I started discovering artists, and then it's one thing led to another. Started discovering like producers and who they were, and then certain producers worked with all of my favorite artists, and you just nerd out on this stuff, and you just start building who your favorites are, and it just kind of evolves from there. I was always into hip hop. It really wasn't until when I started producing that I started looking at other genres, started getting into R&B, just listening to all kinds of different things, whether I was looking for samples or I was just trying to get inspired. And now I feel like I listen to just all kinds of music. It really doesn't matter. On the day-to-day, though, I'm still listening to like hip hop and mostly R&B as well. So
yeah. It's funny. Like I remember when I was like really into hip hop from an early age, but I didn't really understand how it was made till I was pretty far into my life. Like I don't even think I really understood what a 4/4 beat was like until I was probably already rapping I think it was when I started rapping, like in my early 20s, that I was just like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like this is why this is all timed out so perfectly. And it's just then you start taking for granted all this knowledge you've acquired, and eventually, like you said, you're somebody who reads liner notes and you know all of this stuff, and you forget how much that's different from the average music fan. It's crazy.
That is actually what really led me to wanting to be a producer too, is when I found out that a lot of these songs aren't made by a full band. They're made by like a person in their bedroom with an MPC or on FL Studio or whatever. I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't even make any sense. So like once I got into high school, I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, discovering different producers, like how music was made that way. And that eventually just led to when I got out of high school, I was like, let me just get FL Studio. Let me just see how that works. And then I just started making stuff. Obviously, you got to start making pretty bad music, and then you just go from there. And if you do it every day, you just start getting better and better. Yeah. So
do you still remember the first beat you made that was like the one that let you know, oh, like I can do this? Like for me, when I listen back to the very early stuff, there's absolute disaster, absolute disaster, absolute disaster. Then eventually you go, okay, something's happening. And then because you need that encouragement. Do you remember that for you?
I don't really know if it was one specific beat, because like I started out with my friend who is also an artist. And we were actually listening to the mixtape we did like 6 years ago. That was like his first project. And we're listening to it now and we're like, God, it's definitely not horrible, but it's like, man, is it miles away from like what it should have been or what it could have been. A lot of like my beats were so out of key. Like my sound selection was really bad at the time. But I was like,
key was something I didn't know about till way too long.
I still don't know much about key.
I still have to remind myself
that much. But yeah, like you get better over time.
It does make a difference.
I think you're once you get the ear training and you start doing it more and more, even if you don't know how to read music, it becomes a lot easier. When I was
You,
starting out, I was just bad.
You know
So
where like recently with Key made a big difference? I made this MF Doom mega mix that was just like I took a bunch of Doom acapellas and I made a 30-minute mega mix that had like maybe like 11 of his verses and songs on it. But like when I actually realized, okay, if I'm gonna make these beats, like I can actually look up Google the key that the song is in and
yeah,
make my beat in that same key, which it sounds as I'm saying it is like I'm like mansplaining it to myself at like the millionth level. But it's like for someone who's been making music for 25 years, like I just learned that 6 months ago, really.
yeah,
It's like there's
I,
still basic shit to learn.
yeah.
Like that's one of the fun things about it.
Yeah, that's like you said, it's kind of the beauty of being able to do this is that you never know everything. So you're always looking to learn more. And that's something I've been doing a lot too recently, especially when I'm working with artists and they want something specific. I usually say, like, send me a reference song, send me something similar
Yeah.
that you might be looking to do. And then I'll take that song and I'll kind of just dissect it. Like, what's the BPM? What key is it in? What are we kind of looking to do? What's
Get
kind
under
of
the hood.
yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
see that and then start building something with them in mind in my own style and just go from there.
Yeah. You know what's have you reached the point where music starts getting ruined? Because like I have this thing where this is just one example. Like if you listen to enough songs, you hear Smells Like Teen Spirit all the time. Like even songs before that song came out and songs after that came out, you hear like there it is. It's a little slower, there's one note different, but that is Smells Like Teen Spirit. And there's a Tom Petty song that's like that too. Last Dance with Mary Jane, there's a ton of songs that sound just like that. Do you ever have like at a certain point, I think for me, it almost looks like, oh, it's song that's almost like a product at that point. But
Yeah.
like, do you ever have moments like that where the magic disappears?
Well, it's definitely a lot different than like 15 years ago when I was listening to music when I had no knowledge of how it was made. Cause like once
Yeah.
like you said, once you see kind of behind the curtain and you're like, okay, this is how it's done, then it's like, okay, you kind of, you know, the steps that they took to get there at least.
Behind the
I,
curtain's a good analogy because I think
yeah,
all art is in some way an illusion. I think because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
For sure. I kind of look at it. I still don't think like I don't think the joy of it is gone, but I definitely look at things and I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard this sample in this song. And like, I know that that is like, they might have got an interpolation of this song and made it
Yeah.
into something new. So like, I kind of look at it like that. And then I'm like, or if I hear something I've never heard before, or I think that it's from this thing, I'll go like digging, be like, okay, is it actually from what I think it is, or it's something
Yeah.
completely different? So that kind of stuff fascinates me still. So
The joy kind of flips from being the fan to being the oh now I can make people respond this way with my music, and then it's like
yeah,
that's where it becomes like. And it's funny
yeah,
what you said. There's a sample of I don't know if you know Czarface at all, but like there's a beat on that I swear I know what 7L sampled, and I want to ask him, but I can never ask a rapper or a producer that in writing. So I'm like I've been waiting till I go by his record store because I just want to know if it's the song I think it is. But like
yeah.
you know.
It's like the burning. Is it not on like you can't Google it, like you can't figure it out?
I want to know from him
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
like it's
directly.
you
Yeah,
know, dude owns a record store. It's like he's not that
uh,
hard to find. It's just a 2-hour drive.
yeah.
But actually,
Because I know,
check out 7L's record store in Somerville, Mass. Sound. Look it up. That DJ 7L. It's a great place.
yeah.
Back to
I
you.
was gonna say because like I know that Genius has a lot of the stuff figured out, but I know they're wrong a lot. And then there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the Discogs thing where you can go and look, and they'll have every they'll like if a song contains like multiple samples, they'll have every like writer of that sample, the
yeah.
year, like and who if someone sampled from that song, like they got it all like laid out.
Well, I can
But
see why this stuff is wrong so much because it's like I just did a song with like copy. I just put out an album a few weeks ago, like, copyright a couple of songs and like wordplay to Fly MC, a few other people. And it's like I'm thinking about putting the lyrics up there, so I type them all out. But I'm like, am I going to ask them to make sure that it's right? Half the time they're not going to respond because that's
yeah,
what rappers
yep,
are. And I'm just like, in the end, I'll just throw it up there, and if they ever see it and tell it's wrong, I'm going to change it. And that's how most of
yeah,
the stuff gets up there. Like,
yeah,
because even my own lyrics, like what ends up being said on the mic might have never existed on the page completely,
uh,
because you end up changing a few words and stuff like that. But
I like when they'll even do genius breakdowns where they'll have the artist come in
yeah,
and they'll like break it down, and the artist will tell them to their face, like, where did you get that from? That's not even right.
I love
And
that.
they're like, oh, we just had that down. Like, that's what it said. And he's like, no, that's not what it
Every
was.
once in a while, like a really big artist will do that. I think Eminem
Yeah,
did it for like a very, and it was, someone pointed something and he goes, "What? No, 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 no! Tell
yeah,
them." And
yeah,
then we'll probably get obsessed with it for a day, then forgot about it forever.
yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about what you're working, like the project you've worked on, like artists you work with, like what it's like to make a project with you. Yeah, what do you? Let's get more into specifics. We've been talking
Yeah.
big picture here. What are you working on?
So I primarily worked with my artist that I mentioned earlier. His name is Jay Trey, and me and him, we've known each other for almost 20 years now. So we've been friends forever, like even
Yeah.
before we started music. And then when we got out of high school, we began creating. I've produced pretty much all of his projects. Like a couple other producers have made a couple songs with him, but primarily like all of his work so far. I think we've done probably 5 projects. We're working on another one coming out next year. We're actually going to be doing, we're going to break it down like 3 different EPs and then a full album after that. And he's got like he's calling it like the Color Code series. And it's going to lead to the album called the Blackout album. So we're kind of just doing different themes for each one of those. But that's kind of where I learned to like curate a sound for a specific artist and like where I'm still kind of learning because we've done so many songs together. I record him as well. I record his vocals and stuff. So I kind of know like the production that he's always looking for or like what he might enjoy.
Yeah.
So that's really the artist that I always feel like I'm pretty confident when I send him stuff that he's going to like it or not like it. But most of the time he does. And from there, I kind of just took that. And, now that I'm working with a lot of different artists, I kind of do the same thing. I might just send them some things I might feel they enjoy. I don't really sit down and like curate songs specifically for people though. I'm just kind of making random ideas.
Mhm.
And then once the ideas are done, then I figure out, okay, who am I going to give this to? Am I going to post it on BeatStars and just have anyone like take a look at it? Or am I going to just send it to someone specific? And every artist is different, like learning different people's processes too. Like for Jay, he'll write a hook in a few minutes and he'll be like, "Oh, I got this hook, we're ready to go. Let me write some verses over the next like week or so and we'll just record it." Other artists, they might sit with the same song for months.
Right.
And you're just like, "Okay, let me see what's going to happen here." And they might send me a demo, ask for feedback. I give them some feedback. Then you might not hear from them for another month and they're like, "Let me go like reevaluate." So it's just like learning different people's processes too. And just kind of knowing what role to play for myself. I sometimes I wish I was a writer and I could figure out all these different things of like the pocket and all that. I just try to do my best to keep the production simple so the artist can hear themselves on it. And they can just hear where they fit in. Because I think overcrowding the beat is definitely something I had to learn. Like, don't overcrowd it, don't do too much. You want to have artists on it. You got to give them enough space, but you still got to make it interesting enough too. So that's
Right.
still something I always got to keep in mind. But
I always
think
find too that like the last round of making the beat for me it usually happens after the artist records because then like that's where you figure out where you want to drop out and maybe add a little bit more in, but giving them like the more space to like you put the first layer down, they put the vocal down, then you put the roof on sort of of like tie it all together.
I always try to tell artists that too. Like if I send them something, I'm like, it's not the final product. Just
right, think
understand
past
that.
this, like
Yeah,
think
we can keep going back and forth until we feel we have something good here, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of artists they kind of get set in what they hear immediately, and they're just like, well, I don't see it past that. I'm like,
Right.
well, look at it as a work in progress. You know what I mean? You don't have to have everything figured out today. Like, let's just keep working and see where it goes. And then once we end up with something really cool at the end, we can look back and be like, see, we're glad we didn't do that initially. We kind of changed it up or we did something different. And then we got something better.
Well, too, a lot of producers aren't thoughtful enough to make beats that way. It's like I've definitely worked with producers like, all right, well, I banged out these on my MPC this morning. There's no other version of it. There's no like changing anything, and I'm gonna make 1,000 more. I'm like, can you just make one that we can like have a second round on?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think it's just you got to take every. I look at every like relationship that I have now, or every relationship I do have with artists, is like each one is going to be different in its own way.
Definitely.
Not one instance is the same. So you just got to keep that in mind and just try to do your best working with every individual. I don't work with people that I don't like either. And I hope that no one's working with me if they don't like me, because that would be a waste of time. So you got to just work with people that you feel good about and you enjoy the music, you have a good time together. Whether it's in person or virtually, whatever you got to do, just make it work and figure it out. And hopefully you guys make some great stuff. So that's always kind of what I keep in mind.
Yeah, your music sounds great too. I mean, it's just at the top. I checked out a bunch of your stuff on Spotify, and really polished, well mixed. I mean, that makes a huge difference these days. Like, it makes an enormous difference. And well, you can hear the well thought out blend between who the artist is and what the beat and who the beat is. Like, it sounds all great.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I think another, it's kind of frustrating with that, because for me, at a certain point, I lose control of certain parts of the process, because if it's an artist that just buys a beat from me, like, I'll try to reach out. Sometimes I'll try to reach out and that you might not hear from that person. Then they kind of just take it and do whatever they want with it. So it's like, I kind of lose a hand in certain projects and certain songs I've done. But then other projects, it's like I'm completely hands-on. I have an engineer that also helps me out with a lot of stuff, especially for my artist project. Like, he'll do a lot of that stuff. My own self-release stuff is all me, though. Like, I'm just mixing the instrumentals as best I can. I'll just make up everything. I do the artwork myself and all that stuff and just put that out. I think, like, self-releasing stuff is really good for me to do, because it allows me to have the full control of it, as opposed to always working with artists and always having to give up a little bit of control. It's like I can also do that and do my own thing and develop, like, my own stuff that people will like, just instrumentals, and then doing the collabs with the artists, because then I'm able to have more of a hand in the process, which is nice. But
how much thought do you put into promotion of your, and how important is that to you? Is like getting yourself out there? Because these days they say what, there's like, I always get the number wrong if it's 95,000 or 95 million new songs that uploaded to Spotify every day. It's like, it's like, in the example I use is, we waited years for that last Kendrick Lamar album. It came out, everybody loved it, and a week later it felt like everybody forgot it. And it's like, it's not just him, that's the one that to me stands out. So how important is that to you, and how much time, given that it does take time, where does it fit in?
I think I'll, again, because it is different for every artist I work with. Like, some artists might not want to do a ton of promo. They might just want to, like, put it up and see where it goes. So I have to kind of trust their vision with that. For my own stuff, it goes back to what I was saying about, like, my social media planning. That's all included in that. Is like, I kind of try and get a little release strategy going. Like, how am I going to promote it beforehand? How am I going to promote it afterwards as well? Doing things like this, doing interviews, that's a big part of it, where you can go on and talk about the music, and it gives, like, people another way to understand it, as opposed to just like, oh, I heard a song from this random person. I don't know who it is. It was okay. I might not come back to it because I don't really know anything about this person. But it's like, if they hear you speak about it, or they hear more of a story behind it, and you build that up, and they know, like, oh, like, someone put their real, like, emotions in this music, I felt like what they were saying, they'll probably be more inclined to check it out. You know what I mean? Right. So just keeping that in mind. And every single release has been different for what I try to do. And just, like, try to build themes around the projects too. That kind of helps. But yeah, I definitely think it is important just to be able to do it. But also for me, and I think this is the best part about being a producer for me, is that I can drop music in a lot of different ways, because I can do instrumental albums. I can do projects where I produce fully for another artist. I can have placements with just a bunch of random artists here and there. So I can build more consistency that way, to where you might see my name. Like, if I have a good month, I might be dropping like 3 or 4 different things in a month, but they're all different. You know what I mean? So that, I think, has always been the best part about being a producer, and being able to kind of lead it in that way, and just attach my name to more stuff too. So people are seeing that, and hopefully they get familiar with, like, what I'm doing, the sound, and the people I'm working with as well.
Yeah. It's funny with promotion. I'm sure you've seen, like I have at many hip hop shows, opening acts that are yelling at people to get their hands up and to come closer to the stage. That is the moment where I'm like, "Gosh, you guys should have thought about promotion." Like
Yeah.
that's because that to me is the one of the most cringeworthy things in hip hop that I see. And it's like, yeah, that's why I think a lot of artists have ego too, where they realize, well, I'm gonna have to pay money, whether it's to like, submit hub, or whether it's to like a manager or something to get people to hear it. And that sort of impacts their ego to some degree, where they're like,
Yeah.
nah, man, build it and they will come. And you're like, that's just, it doesn't work that way. Like you're
Yeah.
sort of people don't think of it this way, but like every time you find a new song you like, a song that you used to really like is kind of pushed out of your head. You can only really like, we're only really designed to be monkeys that can remember like 80 people in the village. So it's like, I don't care
Yeah.
how many songs my iPod can hold, my brain can only hold. And so like you are asking somebody to not just listen, but like it's hard enough to get somebody to listen, but get them to like become part of like what they listen to is a really big ask.
Yeah.
It's hard. There's so much competition.
I think that's why, having like a work ethic and just being able to put yourself out there more is so important, because you don't want to be one of the people that gets forgotten immediately.
Right.
And like you said, no matter how good it is, it doesn't mean everyone's going to always remember it and always come back to it. So if you're not showing up consistently, they're going to forget about you pretty easily. So I always
And
got to
that's
keep that in mind for myself, is just show up each and every day in a new way. Just try to be different with it. But
and that's where like the album art and all that stuff matters. Like all those little things add up. Where like if you make, like I mentioned Czarface before, like everything they do is very well planned out, and it's always like seems to follow along. It's like you're engaging somebody in experience, even though it really is just an album and a drawing. It's like you're giving somebody an emotion to tap into, and that matters
yeah,
now more than ever.
creating a storyline around all the stuff you do is really important. It's just, you got to think a little deeper than the surface level of, what you're doing sometimes. And I know that's not always easy, but I think it just goes back to, asking yourself, how badly do you want whatever you're trying to do as an artist? You know what I mean? And if the answer is like, oh yeah, I want it that badly, like you'll put the work in, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's yeah, that's the only thing that I found really blocks somebody from getting good is ambition. Because everyone's like, oh, I have no talent, I can't draw, I have no talent, I can't sing or anything like that. But I'm like, it's not about having talent, it's about having the ambition that will survive through failure.
yeah.
And it's like, there's a lot of things in life that I would not have the ambition to survive through failure. It's like if I baked a cake 3 times and it sucked, I'd probably never bake it again. But like if it's working on music, it's different.
Yeah. I'd say if you try it fourth time, you might burn the house down.
Yeah, I know
So
shit.
yeah, you probably should just
But that is,
just
it is
stop
funny
doing
though,
it.
because I am one of those people who I have to do something wrong a bunch of times to do it right, which is why
Yeah.
like I reactivated a tailbone injury the first time I tried to drop into a skateboard ramp, and I haven't been on a skateboard since. And it's
Yeah.
like, so there are these things that I'm like, oh, if I have to fail at that a bunch of times, I'm not interested. That's why I'm 44 and I've never broken a bone. But like I know, like with my learning style, what's a safe hobby.
Yeah. And I think it's just especially if it's something you love, though, it's the willingness to fail. Like you want to
Yes.
fail so that you can become good. Because if you just start out and you're just good forever, it's like, what did you learn? You know what I
Right.
mean? So I think it's
Our
just,
culture doesn't really make room for failure as a way for like
no.
future success. Like it doesn't, like that's not like when they talk about the American way and stuff like that, they skip over the part where you're gonna have to fail a
Yeah.
zillion times, and that's a pretty important part of it.
Yeah. And so you got to kind of retrain your brain too to learn new information, because like you said, I don't think we're taught all that stuff, especially in
Right.
school or just coming up. Where they kind of give you like the sugar coated version, and then when you're out, you're like, oh shit, this is a lot different than what I imagined. Then you kind of got to learn on the fly. But I think when you kind of retrain your brain a little bit to think differently or think outside that box, then it's like, okay, let me see what I can do here. Let me see like how I can impact the world in my own way. So
Well, like modern illiteracy isn't like not being able to read, it's like not being able to like learn, unlearn, and relearn. Because that's
yeah,
where I see people, like the people in my, because I grew up with people that my parents never really came over to the digital age. Like they've never been on Facebook, never been on any of that stuff, and they never will. Like they're in their 70s. But like they, and they're doing fine. But like a lot of people, their generation never decided to relearn for modern age, and essentially you get left behind. So it's like for everybody who complains about TikTok but has never been on it, they've never realized that there is that. Like I never had cable TV growing up, and I'm not going to come on here and like whine and complain about it. My town didn't have it, and my parents didn't want to spend the money on it. But to some degree, I like never having access to like now like international news or like even like stuff like Nickelodeon put me like outside in a way that took me away to catch up, especially if I wanted to work in media, so it's like being able to relearn like you're talking about and keep learning is huge.
It's just like you can't really fight progression, you know what I mean? Everybody, I think that's kind of in everybody's human nature a little bit, to fight progression, because you don't want, especially if you're in something good, you don't want to change, you don't want anything different. So it's like, to an extent, I see why people are that way, and there's so many people that they're like set in their ways. But then it's like, but if I want to keep growing and evolving as a person, I got to push myself out of that comfort zone, and I got to do these things that are scary or different, and just see where that takes me. And I think that's just the difference between people that will continue to build something great or people that will just get left behind, like we talked about. Is just really about the mindset.
So what is there anything now, like a part of your comfort zone you're trying to push yourself out of? Or we're coming along the end of the year. I'm a big New Year's resolution person. I did pretty well on mine this year. I don't know if you are, but like where is your comfort zone looking to say goodbye to you, if that's a good way of asking that question?
I really think it's just about continuing to grow in my self-confidence, and really just being able to, because I feel like I've done a lot better job at betting on myself and just putting myself out there and doing those things. But it's like I still want to keep doubling down on that, and just really going all in with my plan for moving forward and just continuing to elevate, take it day by day. I think the plan is kind of just there. It's just like, how can I keep evolving as a human being? And then like that will translate to the art, you know what I mean? And just keep that in mind at all times. And so I think it's just more of that, is like continuing to bet on myself, really do a lot more in my own personal brand as well. Because I try to do a lot for artists, like promote people and do things where I can. I can't help everybody all the time. And I sometimes I feel bad about that, but it's like just doing what I can each day. But just, betting on myself and really just believing in what I'm going to be putting out as well. I think that's a huge thing that's helped so far. And I think it'll just keep working as I move along. But
I have this mentality, like when you see the videos of like the Amish building barns, where it's like they have everything down, it doesn't look like a barn, all of a sudden they pull some ropes and you see a barn. Like that, I think about that in terms of like my own reach, where it's like, all right, I'm gonna do all this little stuff all over the place and do this stuff and start these projects, and all of a sudden at one point I'll be able to pull it together and it'll form into something. And like it's sort of work. It's like it's that way of like not selling short any interaction, making sure they all matter, and making sure you're listening and hearing and communicating well, and just sharing ideas in ways. And it does add up to something like that. It's the consistency of doing it. It's the accepting that some days you're going to wait around for something that never happens, but another day 10 things will happen you never dreamed of. That
doing the best to like put yourself in those good spots too, and put yourself in the situation to meet those people as well. I think that's like it's really all about acting in purpose and what you feel is right as an individual, and just putting your best foot forward. It's like you can't fail when you do that. Like you said, you might have to wait around for a while, but if you're always aligning yourself with these opportunities, eventually some of them, or the majority of them, are going to come back to you. You just won't know, but just keep doing it every day and see what comes out of it.
Being reliable is like, it's crazy, especially if you're working in the arts. If somebody, I had someone that I deem pretty talented in the industry, who sort of realized that if they asked me to do something for help, I'm super reliable. And now so many opportunities have come from it, because being reliable, so many people are not reliable. They never do things when they say they're going to, if at all. Like if you can prove to somebody that you can do that, that's huge.
I was gonna say that actually reminds me because I try to keep that in mind for myself as well each and every day. Last month, I actually was approached by a loop company. They make loops for producers, things like that. And they were like, "We like what you're doing on social media. If you would like to make some videos for us, we'll pay you, and we'll put them out on our social media." So in my mind, I was like, I really got to do good on this because this is like the first impression.
Yep.
So let me just have a quick turnaround, make something very quality for them, and just get back to them in a timely manner and see what happens. And I was just pretty efficient, just did it all in that day. And the guy thanked me. He was like, "Thank you so much. Like, that was a great turnaround. And we really appreciate you for being good with the business side and just being good with all this stuff." So I'm like, yeah, I just got to keep doing that as much as I can. And, hopefully that continues to grow because I already did a second video for him. That's a relationship that I feel good about moving forward. So I'm like, that's really how I want to approach all these different people I'm connecting with and just try to do good. And, I think if, like I said, if you put your best foot forward and you just trust in your abilities, it's going to work out, if you're meeting the right people. So
yeah, it really comes down to simple things, like especially because talent to some degree is a dime a dozen. All these people that were inspired by, they inspired so many people. So in the end, it's like when the little things matter, not just the album cover, but who you are and how you interact with people. And it's like, you see these people like Craig Kilborn, who years ago was the host of The Daily Show before Jon Stewart. It's like, where the fuck did that guy go? All you hear is that he was a total dick. And you're like, that's where he went. It's like, there's plenty of other people who can, crack wise about, what those fat cats in Washington are doing. We don't need someone who's going to be an asshole. They're doing it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, I think that's kind of a theme of this episode is like we were talking about, you could have all the talent in the world. It doesn't really mean it's going to get you anywhere. It's more about, you're going to be remembered more for what you did as an individual than anything else. And that's really what it all boils down to.
Yeah. And authenticity is a lot cheaper than the fake images too, because you look at, like, you see all these people who, all of us, I'm sure spend a lot of time building social media videos for what you do. I spend a lot of time doing stuff like that and like it too, but it's like so much of what you see in that are people putting an inauthentic version of themselves out there. And I just can't imagine how much more work that is than just being your real self. I mean, it's like if you're doing it as a character and that's obvious, that's one thing. If you're like, I don't know, but
I started doing this year, actually. I did it. This is an idea I got from one of my one-on-one coaches that I was doing. I did a music marketing class again last winter. And one of my one-on-one coaches gave me this idea. It's called Story Bank. And what you do is you go on and you tell kind of a real life story about some experience that led you to a certain point in time. So what I did is I took that idea and I've just kind of been able to tell my stories through music. Like I told a story about how I had in-school suspension when I was a senior in high school because I was skipping too much school. And I ended up getting a book by Timbaland. It was his autobiography called Emperor of Sound. And I read that book during the suspension. And that book kind of led me to finally begin producing because I read his story and I was like, oh man, he went through so much.
I was going to bring him up. I'm going to get back to him in a minute, but keep going.
Yeah, he went through so much to get to where, he is today. And I read that book like during that whole time. And the whole moral of the story of the video was like, you could look at these experiences as like super negative, or you could take these unfortunate scenarios and make them into something good. That's kind of what I did in that moment. Was like, I was in suspension, but I took that moment to like do something good for myself and, make progression. And it led me to this moment of being able to make music. So it's stuff like that. And just putting videos out like that, you're letting people know who you are, but they're able to relate in their own way. You know what I mean? And everybody has the little things in common with your story. Even if you don't know it, you just got to go out and tell it. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do more and more of.
Yeah, it's funny. I did something, what you're talking with the storytelling thing. I did something very similar recently and it was successful. Just to give you a quick version. So I put out a song on my most recent EP called Put the Mic Down. It's like, put the mic down or we fight now. It's kind of a more aggressive song than I usually do. And when I put out my little Spotify clip, I found this footage of the very first time my old group, Mike Monarchy, jumped on stage. As the first beat is kicking in, some random stranger in the crowd starts trying to have a fight with me and is screaming at me. and I'd never seen this dude before. And so literally my verse is about to start, and the first thing ever, we actually had a big crowd for our first show, and this time he was trying to start a fight. So I was able to tell that story. I was able to match that video that I had lying around from 15 years ago. And it's thematically like worked for both the visual and like the song that never meant to match up. And I was able to tell the story about it, and it definitely increased engagement of it. So like that's the fun thing about an artist, is that like these things aren't really connected, and this is sort of making almost like a fake version of me, but it's making like the artist version of me, where it's like, oh, this stuff all collides, and is this, and it works.
It's all part of your journey, and then when you put that journey out there, people will see that and they'll understand it in their own way and be like, wow, that I can see a piece of myself in that, you know what I mean, in some type of way. And that's the people that end up becoming the fans and the supporters, and that's you just got to keep
all the people who try to start a fight with someone on stage are gonna like this song. Actually, I got to tap into that market. Like, so Timberland, I think I'm almost positive it was Timberland. Do you ever heard of the Master Class? It's like an app or like a service you can get for, like, someone gifted this to me a few years ago, and it's like it's like a month, it's like a subscription thing where like people like Steve Martin do these long classes on comedy, and then like they've all these people like Penn and Teller does stuff, and I think it was Timberland that did it, and I watched it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he did the music production one. Okay. I don't know how much he did with it though. I never had it. I don't know like what.
So you haven't seen that?
I have not.
Okay, so this is what I've seen that, and he does something in there that is so wild, where he basically shows how he writes a beat like in his head. He beatboxes it out like one layer at a time. And then he has his like producer, his like, his partner or whatever, who's sort of, he's in there, boom, like beatboxing each layer. The guys mixes it like it's a beat based on his beatbox. Then he goes in and replaces each layer of his beatbox with a real instrument. And I was like, is that the most impossible? It blew my fucking mind.
Yeah. I was gonna say whatever. It's crazy because each individual has their own process, but some I feel like I do that a lot too. I look at other people, the way they make stuff. I'm just like, I respect it, but I don't know how the hell you just did that.
Right. Yeah.
Like that's crazy.
But even if you take one out of the 10% out of it, you still, it's like, it is pretty crazy. Like how many different ways there are still to do this thing that feels like it in some ways has been done to death. It's like there is still,
I think that's why I always look at like the people that will always critique how certain people do things. I'm like, if it's their way of doing it, just let them go. You know what I mean? Right. That's their way of doing it. You can't replicate that in any other way. It's about the individual. It's not really about the tools.
It's like a sidearm pitcher in baseball. It's like, you can tell him it's going to fuck up his arm, but if that's the only way he's getting on Cy Young Award, we're going sidearm.
His little league coach tried to tell him, he's crazy, but here he is now collecting the award. So
So, I don't know. So what about projects that you're working on now? Like anything that you're excited for 2024, or what are some of your goals for, like, where would you like to be this time next year? Answer all those huge questions I just asked you while I take a sip of my polar seltzer.
Okay. So projects, we just released, for Proven Knowledge, we just released the first album called Forms of Escapism.
So was that like people that were on your podcast? Because I've been thinking about doing that, and I don't want you to think I stole your idea.
No, you're good, man. That's the whole point of just kind of trying to inspire others as well. Is like that it was a lot of people that were on the show, or just people that me and my artist had worked with before. King Shams's good buddy Black was on the album. He was on 2 songs on there. Had a lot of different individuals as well. We did some different producers too. I did like 10 of the songs. We had some other people come in, do a couple interludes for us. It's a lot of different styles, so that was kind of cool to do. Definitely want to do another one soon, but it is just a lot of work to do an album with that many people. And it took us like a year and a half to do it. So I definitely want to do it again, but not anytime soon.
You always think it's going to be easy because everybody else is doing most of the work. You're like, oh no, that just means I'm doing more like you got to get pushing bullshit.
Because you got to get everybody on board, and you got to make sure that everything kind of seamlessly fits together. We like the way it came out, though. It came out as a really good project, so we're proud of that one. I think 2024 is just going to be more focused on my artist J Trey. We're doing, like I said, those 3 EPs, probably an album after that.
Can you spell
So
that
just
just for people because they want to look it up? Because like I can imagine you spell J Trace in different ways.
yeah, so it's Jaytrey.
Wasn't the
All
one
the
I was picturing, so I'm glad I asked.
Yeah. It's he combined his first name, Jalen, with Trey Sean, his middle name. So he just
Okay.
took the parts of that made J Trey. So a lot of music from him because we've kind of just been stockpiling music for the last like year and a half, just working on a lot of different stuff. It's gonna be a lot of old school hip hop, but some different variations of stuff too, especially in the EPs.
Mhm.
Myself, I'm doing collab projects with different artists. The artist I was telling you about, Grizz, he's from, I always forget if he's initially from Cincinnati and now he's in Columbus, or if he's from Columbus and now he's in Cincinnati. Somewhere in those two cities, that's where he's at. He's had some projects in the past, but I'm doing a full album for him. It's called Solace, and it's probably going to be dropping at the top of the year. We're almost done. We're finishing up the last few mixes, and then we're going to probably get like a little release plan in place for it, figure out what we want to do. Very excited for that. That should be like 10 songs, not too long. I'm dropping another instrumental EP called Sound Origin Volume 3. It's kind of just completing the one I've done the last 2 years for the Sound Origin series. And then I'm working on some more instrumental projects as well. I'm going to drop another one next fall, probably the second half of the year, that I'm very excited about. It's going to be kind of just more of just like thought-provoking stuff, things you can just throw on to clean your house too, or like go on a walk, like just things that make you think about life. That's what that's going to be.
That kind of makes me
So
think of like Blockhead. Do you ever listen to Blockhead?
I have not. I'm going to have to though.
Oh, go check out Blockhead. He produced like a lot of stuff like Aesop Rock and like people
Okay.
like that. Like
Yeah.
that's like exactly what you know.
Yeah.
You
I look at like producers like Apollo Brown, like when he does
know.
his instrumental albums. The one
Yes.
he did last year called This Must Be the Place. I'll just
I
throw
haven't
that
heard
on
that
in the
one.
morning and just listen to that. It's like 22 instrumentals. That's
This
kind of
just
what I'm going for with this project. It's kind of just more like life music. So
this just showed up in the mail for me yesterday. The new DJ Shadow album, Action Adventure. Which
that
if you ever
cover's
listen,
great.
it's nuts. It looks like an Alex Ross painting. Honestly kind of even freaks me out in a way that an album cover, like, because I don't know if you know Alex Ross. He does a lot of those like the superheroes, like that are almost like that look like this, like Superman,
Yeah.
like this, and I almost feel like Uncanny Valley. And this one, I don't know, fucking freaks me out. But I cannot wait to listen. DJ Shadow. If you've never heard Introducing by DJ Shadow, it's the most amazing fucking thing ever. But
I was gonna say you're getting me hip to a lot of new stuff, so I gotta go dive in. I just discovered a producer in the last couple of weeks named Nappy High. He's signed
sounds
to
familiar.
do you know LaRange, the producer? You know
Yeah, oh
him?
yeah. He
Yeah.
done stuff with Mr. Liff. I remember seeing
Yeah,
them doing
Mr.
stuff
Liff.
together.
Yeah, he's worked with like a lot of people on Mellow Music Group
Yeah, I
before.
remember looking at one of the albums and I'm like, look at all these freaking people on
Yeah.
this. Like,
He has a new label called Old Soul Music, so he signed like Blue and a lot of different rappers, stuff like that. He signed a producer named Nappy High, and I think he's one of my favorite producers already. Just listening to his stuff. He dropped an album called Menace. It's got Raekwon, Westside Gun, Benny, Blue, God, who else? Mick Jenkins, a bunch of other people on it. I was like, this is incredible.
Wow.
Probably one of my favorite albums of the year. So just discovering different people, man. I'm always looking for like new producers, and Eloquent. He's another producer I recently started listening to this year. Big fan of his. He just dropped an album called Rediscovery. I've been listening to that a lot. So just always looking for different music. But yeah, I think, back to like what I'm dropping. I think it's just be on the lookout for like my solo stuff. I'll be dropping different singles with other artists as well. I'm working with a guy named Tommy G from Sacramento. We're doing a lot of different like weird styles of hip hop, which is kind of cool.
that's a good. That is funny. They like that there, the Bay Area to
Yeah.
Sacktown. Like it's
Yeah.
like there's some. I'm a huge Digital Underground fan, and they're from the Bay Area, but like there's some great tradition of weird hip hop from that area of California.
Yeah. So I'm excited what we're going to be doing, and then just one-off placements. I've been working with a lot of R&B artists on some different things, which is exciting. And then I just don't know what else could come out next year. We'll just have to see. But a lot of stuff's being worked on. I I'm just trying to keep showing up each and every day and
You got any
see what I
good
can
R&B I'm a big fan of like SZA and like Yaya Bay, but like I'm
yeah,
not like I don't know what I love Mariah Carey. I
yeah.
you know, I was playing the All I Want for Christmas song at like midnight on Halloween last week. But like who are some,
Okay.
but I don't know a ton of like R&B besides them. Who are some of your
Yeah.
favorites? Like modern R&B. Or even
So
all time, whatever you got.
yeah, so I'm trying to think of artists I've been listening to recently. Aaron Ray, who's from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Aaron
He's an
like as an
R&B artist.
AAR like ARON or
It's a weird way of spelling Aaron. It's Arin.
I can
He
always
was
smell when
actually
something's gonna be weird
yeah,
spelling.
yeah. It's a weird spelling, but he I think he used to be on like he's one of those people that was on like the X Factor a long time ago. So he kind of got
Yeah.
known originally, and then he redid his whole brand and like his whole style.
That's what they have
But
to
he's
do. They have to go up
yeah,
there to get their little thing. Then they have to crash
yeah,
back down and rebuild themselves.
yeah,
Because from there, there's almost like nowhere to go. Because
yeah,
you're just this like little commercial thing. It's a weird
exactly.
thing. It's always
Because
so impressive when they do it. So
I
like
didn't
when I
know
see the
about him
Miz
from
in wrestling, I'm like, good for you,
yeah.
man. You're on the real world.
Exactly. So I didn't know about him from the X Factor. I found that out after I started listening to his stuff.
And you liked
But
him despite.
I discovered him through Terrace Martin, who's a producer, instrumentalist, artist, someone that I'm a big fan of. He worked with Aaron on the album called Platinum Fire, which was like his first project. He just put out one this year called Phases 3, which was really good. Terrace Martin just did an album with Alex Isley, who's a really good R&B singer. That was one of my favorite albums of the year so far. I'm trying to think of who else R&B wise. James Fauntleroy, obviously, big songwriter, big fan of his vocally. So
I'm gonna give an R&B shout out, not to make things sad for a second, but Mike Juan Jackson, a friend of mine, who passed away a couple weeks ago unexpectedly. He was the first person to ever take me to a recording studio, Wonka Sound and Low, where I conducted the first interview that I ever did close to 20 years ago. And he was an amazing R&B singer. He used to write with the New Kids on the Block, and he was part of, I think, the Funky Bunch, or at least the extended Funky Bunch of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. And go look up some of his music. Mike Juan Jackson. It's there's some of it out on streaming, but he had a really amazing voice, and he was a really talented songwriter, and he will be dearly missed. So just check him out.
yeah,
But
it sounds like he had a lot going on. Super
crazy, and it's like he was in a lot of other, he acted in movies with Terrence Howard, like lots of really big name people. We met this guy. I went to film school years ago at BU, and my friend of mine who works in film has been doing it since. Like he put out a thing for a student film, like he was just looking for actors, and this guy thought it was a real film, and he had just done this kind of big indie film and it just showed up, and he's like, all right, it's not a real film, I'm not getting paid, I'll do it anyway. And they worked with him for years and years, and like it became a really he knew like Benzino, who owned the Source, and we actually had an office in New York City that was right next door to Source magazine. We ended up doing a video for Blinky Blink, who was Mace from like Diddy and Mace's brother. Blinky Blink, we did a video for him. So it was like, and when you're just starting out, stuff like that is just so exciting, and it's just a lot of it was done due to Mike Juan. So shout out to him. If you missed, check out his music. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's kind of like a good way of looking at, one opportunity leads to the next. You know what I mean? You just never know who you're meeting and when, if you're in the right place at the right time, and what happens from that. So
it was funny too. I was reflecting on my own journey the other day where I realized, you talk about self-confidence. Like the idea that I could ever be a performance artist when I was a kid is outrageous. Like I was lucky if I even wanted to like, show my face anywhere. But I always knew that I was an okay writer. And I'm like, whatever I do, writing will have to be central to it. And what I ended up doing was going, I need something beyond that. It can't just be the pen on the page. So I just would keep moving off the little things going, is this the way to like push my writing ahead? And what you end up doing is learning all these different skills that can accentuate your one actual, what might be your gift. And that to me has served me so well, where it's like you find the one thing you're good at and then try to find all the different ways that you can, exploit or just like, push forward. And you end up being pretty well rounded that way, and you end up knowing yourself pretty well. Sounds like do something similar,
I was going to say that that's really how I feel about doing my podcast as well, is because I never I'm an introvert, honestly. Like I'm not someone
Same
that
with
goes
me.
and
Same with
I
me.
don't go in social settings. I don't go
Yeah.
to bars. I don't go out
all,
on
all this
weekends.
stuff
Like,
is nice. I didn't go to bars, money I
yeah,
saved, and vacations I didn't take. That's why I have so
yeah.
much crap. It's my
like
record collection.
I feel that way because I'm like I would have never guessed I'd be talking to people every week
Yeah.
on Zoom call or FaceTime or whatever, and like getting to know them and having them like tell me their story and I'm telling some of my story. It's like would have never guessed that. But like I think being able to talk about what you love too helps a lot. It's like I don't think I could just like you said earlier about how you would never just randomly call people and like have these conversations. Like if it is a little more structured and you know you have some common ground, it becomes a lot easier. But I still never would have looked back on myself from 15 years ago and been like, oh, you're going to be doing a podcast, you're going to be talking to all these artists from all over the world, producers, engineers, whatever. I'm like, nah. But it's such a pleasant surprise that it's been able to happen, and to be able to do it consistently too is just super awesome. And I feel like that's helped with my growth, be able to continue to progress just as a human and just be able to communicate better with people
Yeah.
on the day
Oh,
to
me
day.
too.
So yeah.
It's helped me at work. I definitely know that I speak more confidently now. I manage people. I know that like I feel more comfortable in the way that I
Yeah.
talk, and
Uh,
yeah, it makes a big
it,
difference.
yeah. It is a learning curve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're not, because I think like I always looked at people I was in like school with, and I'd be like, how are they so good with people, or they're just good with everybody? I
That
don't
was
think
the
I ever
big thing
had
for
that
me is I didn't
skill. Yeah.
understand how to learn how to be good with people.
Yeah.
That's a tricky thing when you're young,
Yeah.
when it seems to come so naturally to some people,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. But I guess it's just like anything else. We all have our own ways of getting to a point where we feel good about it. And I still don't think I'm good with everybody. I'm not like going up to random people, like talking to them and whatever. But
Right.
I try to just be like, just keep evolving, keep progressing in that way. I think helps a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's, what, like, even on an objective sense, I try to remind people of this, especially when they're stressed out. It's like, look, never in the history of this entire stupid rock that we're spinning on has things progressed as fast as they are right now. So give yourself a fucking break.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in a freaking petri dish right now. We're all beyond the looking glass. We are not supposed to be evolving this fast. So just like, you can't slow that down. So sometimes you got to slow yourself down a little
Yeah.
bit. And giving yourself the pause and permission to do that can actually help you achieve some pretty cool things.
Yeah. That goes back to I think what we were talking about earlier with you got to be comfortable with yourself in the maze of everything else and everybody else. It's like you just got to know that you're making that progress each and every day. You're just putting in the little steps to get where you want to be, and just work at your own pace. You don't have to be at everybody's pace all the time. You don't have to be in the rat race all the time. It's like you're on this journey, see where it can take you, and just do your own thing. Don't be afraid to do that. So
you said something earlier that have you ever seen the movie Three Kings, the Iraq War movie with George Clooney and Marky Mark and Ice Cube? There's
I was gonna say the only Three Kings I know is the Rick Ross, Jay-Z, Dr. Dre song.
No, they might have named after this movie. This is a pretty good movie by David O. Russell, and it was a Iraq War movie with Spike Jonze, George Clooney, Ice Cube, Mark Wahlberg. Like maybe it was like maybe late '90s, early 2000s. And there's a line in it where I think George Clooney says to Spike Jonze or some combination or whatever. He goes, "You do the thing first, and then you get the courage." Where it's like Spike Jonze didn't feel like he had the courage to do whatever he had to do in that moment. And he was like, you don't start with the courage, you end with the courage. And that's something that like, a lot of people are like, I'm not going to do a podcast because my first couple episodes are going to be eternally embarrassing. And what if that's all I ever do? Well, you know what? Just go in making sure it's not all you're going to do. And to find your courage along the way and learn learn who you are by becoming the version of yourself you never knew existed.
Yeah.
It's my fortune cookie shit for the day.
The only way to get better is to keep going. So,
exactly. The only I sometimes, you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
I've seen a couple episodes. I don't watch it religiously though. But
there was what Barney Stinson sometimes would say, newer's always better. And I don't always believe about that, but in terms of like my art and stuff, it's like I'm not out there screaming about AI art. I'm actually interviewing this guy next week, Brian Life, who's doing some crazy stuff with AI art. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's not fight this shit. Let's just do what we gotta do to survive.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about with progression, like not fighting progression. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can't really fight it. You just got to find your way in it and just like, okay, how can I make this work for me, or how can I just, keep it going and just keep my ear to what's going on. You know what I mean? Just be aware of these things.
Yeah.
So
Actually, this is a fun question I like to ask people. What are some musical artists that you like a lot that people wouldn't expect that you like? Because I always find that when I ask this question, people mention stuff that when I check out myself, I find that it's more interesting than I thought. You learn a lot from this.
see, I feel like the majority, because I feel like if people know my music taste, they probably know what I listen to, or the majority of like things that I do listen to. Um, I don't know. Honestly, that's kind of a good question. Growing up, I actually was a big, because of my brother. I remember I said we shared a playlist. I was
Yeah.
a big Linkin Park fan, actually, growing up, because I was like, I liked what they did with it was combining rock with hip hop and some different
Yeah,
genres.
and
They
that
always
Jay
get,
Z
yeah, they
Jay
did
Z
the
mashup was
collision course.
big for me. Yeah,
Yeah, collision course, man. That was a super big thing. So I always respected like what they did as a band. Obviously, Chester, the lead singer, committed suicide.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing a few years ago. So they're not a band anymore. But like growing up, they were super influential on me and like just being a fan of music. I would always hear their songs. I'm like, I like what they do. And obviously, like Shinoda did the Fort Minor stuff, and that was more
Yeah.
hip hop.
Yeah.
So, and he's still making his own music. I haven't really listened to a lot of what he's done recently, but
Yeah.
him as well, just being a part of that band and like
Back in the
bringing the
Styles of
different
Beyond
flavors
days,
in.
they're doing stuff with like Apathy
Yeah,
and yeah.
absolutely. So they were definitely like super influential on me growing up. And I actually just bought my brother for his birthday. I bought him a Meteora 20th anniversary shirt. That's like what I got him because I was like that. He had that album. Like that was like one of his favorite albums growing up. We always listened to that. So this year was the 20th anniversary. So I got
Time
him the
flies.
shirt out. There you go, man. So,
flies,
but
man.
yeah.
It's one of the reasons I like asking that question is because I find that some people have a certain embarrassment over some stuff. Like, Linkin Park, I think that's not probably the right example in this case, but like that sometimes like there's stuff they're embarrassed to say that I like. So there's two things I want to confess to. One is the fucking Carpenters. If you've never heard the Carpenters, they're like this 70s brother sister group that I absolutely love, and they're so like saccharine, but the production is so lush, and for some reason it just touches me, and I love her and whatever, and so I love them. But this is the record that I bought the other day, and this was definitely on sale, and I'm embarrassed to have bought this, especially this year, but I actually really like the music on this record.
Is that that's what's his name?
Takashi.
Yeah, Takashi.
And when everybody shit on like every bad thing you can say about him is true times a million. But when I heard his music the first time, and that's all I knew about him, I'm like, this dude sounds like the Sex Pistols mixed with DMX. And like that was my first impression. He's like, just heard a couple of those songs, and I was like, what is this? And so I listened to that, and then it took me like a few years to catch up to what a jackass he was. But like, I just want to say it's okay to like shitty things. I'm not a shitty. I tell you, I'm not a shitty person because I like this, and I'm going to listen to it. And I don't think any of the money went back to him. So
yeah.
At least it probably went to one of his lawsuits or something.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't think he's making music anymore from what I've heard, but I don't know.
I heard he's not allowed to leave the Dominican Republic because of some case he caught down there. Is the last I saw on it. Yeah. And when it comes to him now, I'm only reading the headlines. I'm not clicking on the stories.
Yeah. Well, at least that was on sale, so you can.
Yeah, it was. You can tell that's been sitting around for a while.
Yeah.
But like even to that point about like the entire presentation is like this is a pretty this is a pretty cool looking record.
Oh yeah, it's like the radio vinyl.
Yeah,
almost.
It's like every detail was put into this except for the actual being a decent human being part. That's the tricky part.
You skip that part. But everything presentation looks good. So
I know it's amazing what a big pair of like cartoon eyeballs can like. Oh no, he's whatever. But like whatever.
It caught your eye, so that's what matters.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. There was a great documentary on him on Hulu where it was like not like one that pumped him up. It was one that showed. It was like it's funny how sometimes you can say what you want about someone like him, but there is a lesson to be learned there if you want to pay attention. You can get through the bullshit. It's like there's something that he went through that like you're not going to have to go through, but there are a few things that he did right that you're like, yeah, he knew how to do stuff, you know. So, but
there's got to be a reason why we heard of him, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
it's like it's interesting. It's you know, but fascinating people. But whatever. So I don't know, man. We've been rambling for a while here. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I mean, other than just, you know, be on the lookout for the new music. If you're looking for another great podcast, the Proven Knowledge Podcast, new episodes every Tuesday. I usually take the last week off of the year. So like that Christmas to New Year's week, I don't drop an episode. Every other Tuesday, I drop a new episode with someone, producer, artist, engineer, mostly independent people or people that I work with or people that you might not have heard of. So if you want, you know, another great show to check out, feel free. But man, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be on here and have a super organic conversation. It's kind of off the cuff. I like this stuff, man. So
well, I've barely ever heard of me. So if you ever want need a unknown guest for your podcast, feel free to let me know.
Or it's funny you mentioned it because I was gonna invite you on the show.
Yeah. Definitely.
And have you come on in the next few weeks and record the episode. So if you're interested, I'd love to have you on.
To. Yeah,
awesome.
And it's funny when you were saying that your goal was to start doing more other people's podcasts. I was thinking like, yeah, that's kind of my goal too.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, mid December is when I should have another opening. If you want to come on, man, I'll let you know all the details. So definitely excited, man.
And so you go to make sure Anthony Church is the name you go by. You know, it's always so rare when somebody hip hop goes by like their real name.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no other thing besides Proven Knowledge that people would find you under.
Yeah, it's pretty much just my name. I'm primarily on Instagram, which is at Anthony_Church24.
That'll be under your name the whole time. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. Some people only listen to audio, so say that again because I probably won't.
Okay, so yeah, Instagram primarily. If you want to keep up with everything I'm doing, it's at Anthony_Church24. I never really wanted a moniker. Like I actually made a story bank about this thing. I think I'm going to put it out next year. It's about why I don't have a moniker. But yeah, I just always wanted to kind of just be myself in the music and just be who I am. And that's kind of just why I just stuck with my name. Plus, I'm a producer, so I'm like, I'll be in the background every now and then, so I can do that. Not too bad.
Yeah, when you're a producer, you're definitely a little closer to the business world than the rapper is. So there is some advantage to not being like, you know, little yuck or something. You know.
Yeah, like, I couldn't do a little, man. No way.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's like it's gonna be years before we find another way to spell Lil or Young, but eventually we'll find one. Like, I always think of there was a joke on King of Queens years ago where Kevin James said it's going to be years before they find a new place to put cheese on a pizza, talking about when they put it in the crust. And then I remember seeing an ad for pizza last year where they actually found another place to put cheese on it, and I'm like, fuck it, he was right.
I wonder if he knew that though. Like, does he know?
I don't know. He's wondering why people are googling him so much now because that meme he's on every like meme now. Yeah. So I don't know. That man benefited from the death of Chris Farley so much because it seems like every role that Chris Farley would have been in, like all those grown-up movies, all of those, it's like it's Kevin James now.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But
I
don't know. It's an observation. All right, man. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. And cool.
And with wings clipped, quick to flip manuscripts. Cause her man went from damaged kid to damn he's rich. But she still can't stand the way he manages to never put nickels in the can for the cancer kids. Plus he cheats at cornhole and brags that he won. So she lost interest like porno after she comes. My DM started jingling baby as it was done. 2 seconds later I can hear the snapping of her gums. She calls me half Dodge Challenger, half Lip Gallagher. I'm happy that I luckily sat next to her in algebra. I tried to hold her down but I just couldn't balance her between the million meetings that I keep in my calendar. Plus odds aren't too sloppy that I know why my cell is blowing up probably, but I should check just as well. Call the cops, see if I can get a hold and tell if that's copyright's yell raising hell inside the holding cell. Smell the smoke from the cookout. The bushes in the
summertime on the radio. Throwback Friday, yo, the ladies know. Then I'm a smooth type guy. Listen, I'm the shit I need, 2-time ply. Part of my soul on my head, sky high. The weed smoke cover my body, so I try. Put a scent on, like sunblock. Summertime's body season, so keep your gun cocked. I count beers in the cooler, cause when the fun stops, that's when the arguments happen. In the gunshots, it's summertime. Backyards where we play cards. Spitting in cipher, the homie trade bars. Dominoes slam on the table, we take charge.